We are live. It is Thursday. It is 1 p.m. and it is time for 30 with Karen and Justin. Karen is with me today, which is great. We love that. Please welcome today to our show, Ilene Elkaim, a metabolic wellness coach based in Burlington and founder of Six Dynamics Wellness. She typically works with adults over 45 to help them understand what's really going on with energy, weight, metabolism, and how to reset it in a simple, sustainable way. Thank you so much for coming on, Ilene. This is great. We appreciate you coming on. Um, I like to dive into a little bit of history first because you've got a little bit of a backstory here that you sent me over. And I want to kind of talk a little bit about that because a lot of times when we talk to people on the show, we want to know how they got here.
Yeah.
Why do you do what you do? Because, sometimes there's a reason and it's not always obvious. And so why don't you start with a little bit of why you're doing what you're doing first?
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for doing these sessions, by the way. I really appreciate the connection to the community.
No problem.
So my backstory is one that I like to call a pain to passion story. Because what I'm doing right now is what I call my calling. It's not what I've been doing for the last 30 plus years, but it is now what I am doing. And it started with what I call a rude awakening, number one, when my parents both passed away at the age of 75, each 3 years, so at 75, but 3 years apart. First, my dad, the big one, the heart disease, mom to cancer. And that was the first point where I said to myself, gee, I think I want to live a little longer than 75. And it started making me think about my own health. And I was in my 40s at that time. So it was fairly young, relatively speaking. And then shortly thereafter, I had my own health challenges of autoimmune. And it took months, I'm just going to say at least 9 months for the doctors to diagnose the one I had. I was swollen from my elbows to my hands, from my knees to my feet. There was pain, there was lack of dexterity, there was just issues that took strong medication to resolve. And then when I finally got stable, it went away. And then a few years later, it came back. And then when I asked my doctors, who I trust, who I, revere, I asked, why is this coming back? And their answer was, I don't know. And that was kind of catalyst number two that's put me on this wellness journey. And to fast forward, to not go too long on this. So fast forward now to 2024, I followed so many protocols, did so much research, and I found Dr. Mindy Pelz, whose flagship book is Fast Like a Girl, and tried her protocol for myself. And I've kicked my autoimmune to the curb.
Nice.
And I've also helped my husband along the way. And when I realized that, she offered a certification course. And that's when I said, okay, I need to do this to help others, because by and large, the what we call lifestyle diseases are resolvable. And I just want to help people live healthy lifespans, really and truly.
So you've got a lot of people out there. Like, I feel like after 45, it's harder and harder to lose weight and to be healthy for whatever reason. And I'm sure you get a lot of comments like, I feel like I'm eating well and I feel like I'm exercising and doing all the right things, but my body's just not doing what I'm expecting it to do. What does that mean? Where do we go from there?
Well, what do? Let's just start. And before I jump into kind of a bit of an explanation, I just want to make sure everyone who's listening or
Sure.
watching understand this is general information.
Mm.
Really and truly, everything needs to be kind of tailored to a person's circumstances, lifestyle, etc.
Sure,
But I
sure.
am just here to open the door for people to start having an understanding. And the first term that I would talk about, if we're feeling stuck, if we're feeling, we're eating the same but yet my body's changing, or I'm trying things but nothing's working, we need to look at insulin resistance. Now, I don't know if I mean, this is a very common term these days, so people may already know, but I'm going to explain it.
Go for it. I
People,
want to know because I'm not, like, I've heard the term, but tell me more. I want to
I
know
haven't
more.
heard the term.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard it.
so fair enough. So insulin resistance, what happens is that every time you eat, especially when you have carbohydrates and sugar, your blood sugar rises. When your blood sugar rises, a hormone called insulin is also called into the game. And insulin's job is the key to the cells. So in other words, you're eating for energy, right? You need to move, you need to think, you need to breathe. So you're eating so that you can have energy in your bodies. And insulin is the key to say, here's cells, here's some glucose, so you can have some fuel to keep the body going.
Yeah.
Well, that works really well when it's firing occasionally. So let me just take a step back for a moment, because I want to remind us that our human body dates back to hunter-gatherer days. Right? We are not downloading new systems from the cloud every month like we do with our iPhones. Our system dates back to hunter-gatherer days. Think about them. They didn't know when their next meal was coming from. They could go days without eating and still survive. And I'm just talking about the system. I'm not talking about the lifestyle, but certainly the system is the same system in the 21st century. So our system is built for rest, but we don't give it rest. The insulin resistance is we're continuously eating 2 to 3 times a day. We're sipping, we're grazing, we're doing whatever we are feeling we need to do to keep our energy going. And what happens is eventually the cells say, sorry, I have no more room. You can't give me that sugar. So now insulin goes, oh, what do I do with this sugar? Or this glucose is really the blood sugar. And now what it does is it starts storing it as fat in the body. It has to put it somewhere. And what it does is it starts putting it first around your vital organs, like your liver, stomach. That's called the visceral fat. And so if you're continuously eating every 2 to 3 hours a day, that's what's happening. And that's why there are hormones that are helping us when we're younger, and as we age, things are slowing down. The system's getting more gunky, the glue of glucose is sticking. And so what happens now is, I just want to give a little analogy where if we continue to do that, our organs can only have so much room for fat. And that's like your freezer in your refrigerator. So you have only so much space in your refrigerator to store frozen food. Now you continue eating. The insulin's now saying, sorry, liver's full, stomach is full. Now I'm going to start putting it elsewhere in our body. That's your freezer in the basement, where that big white box of a freezer in your basement. And now we're spreading the fat to other parts of the body. And so
what an analogy.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I can't claim it myself. I read it in one of my books. I believe it was Dr. Jason Fung, one of the doctors I follow it, and I love it. To me, that's a visual that even I can.
Very good. Very good. Yeah.
So if that's what's happening. So when you eat 2 to 3 times a day, what happens now is cravings are in. You feel a lull in the afternoon. You might have brain fog. You don't feel that you're as focused as you want to be. I'd be asking you guys, do you feel some kind of slump in the afternoon on occasion?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Short answer.
Yeah.
I was no.
No. Good.
Aren't you special?
Good.
No, I'm always on the go. But when I do feel a slump is because as probably around 7 o'clock. And then I want to shut down everything and do whatever I have to do.
Well, and we would have to talk about why that is, but I would just say that, if you're at 7 o'clock because you've had a long day, that kind of doesn't sound food driven. It doesn't sound like it's around food. Whereas for most of the people I speak with, there's basically the cravings are the food has some addictive qualities in it. Continuously eating, and that's the challenge.
Yeah.
All right.
So some of the stuff you've noted here that this is not necessarily even about willpower, or being lazy or undisciplined, which a lot of people feel shame and guilt around, which is horrible.
Exactly. And that's what my message is, that this is a biological phenomenon at the cellular level. And then it's just, there are other steps to take to then be able to counteract that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So now where do we go from here? So we understand we have some of these symptoms, and everybody are different. So we're going to have different directions we have to go, different roadmaps for each person. So where's the sort of average person fit in here, and where do we go from this direction?
Yeah. So the next foundational item that I want to share before we go into kind of fasting and food, which before we go there, is I want everyone to understand that our body is actually a hybrid of 2 fuel systems, not too different from a hybrid car. So, in a hybrid car, we have gasoline and we have battery. Now, And if you think about, and not the battery itself, but how the battery operates, it's cleaner, right, for the environment. It's calmer, it's quieter, and our two fuel systems in our body are the same. So we have two fuel systems. One's called the sugar burner system, and this is the one that is fueled by eating. All right, so we get food, and that's where the body is using, that's what we're talking about, insulin resistance. The body is using the sugar burner system to get the energy into our bodies. Now, what happens is most of us spend all day here. And, eating every 2 to 3 hours, we don't give our body enough time to rest. So what happens is we're in this sugar burner system number one. So we have those cravings, the sugar spikes, some brain fog. And what happens is we still have this fat burner system in our body, but we're not making use of it. And I'll talk a little bit more in a moment. But so what's happening is it's kind of rusty. And this is metabolic flexibility. If you've ever heard the term, it means you can go from a sugar burner system to a fat burner system easily. And when you get into the fat burner system, it means you've let your body rest at least 8 to 12 hours from food. Or even drink, but some drink is allowed. And we're going to talk about some of this in a moment. So what's happening when you're in the fat burner system, it's more stable. You have sustained energy. You don't have those crashes. Like, people who allow their body to rest don't feel that lull in the afternoon if they're, over time. It's not a one and done thing. Just to take a minor step, if you want to get into a marathon, you don't think about it today and do it tomorrow. It's the same thing with flipping the metabolic flexibility. It's hermetic stress. It's work, like going to the gym. It's work, but your brain prefers the fat burner system. The ketones, if you've heard that word, ketones are generated from the fat that the liver, by the way, is breaking down, and that's how you burn off the fat around your liver. You might have heard the term non-alcoholic fatty liver. That's what it is when you collect the fat around your liver, and when you're in the fat burning system, you're actually burning it off. The body knows where to burn the fat off first because it has its own priority. You don't have to think about it. And that's where you get more calm clarity. So we have these two systems. And I just want us to understand that before we start talking about
of course,
food and fasting. But it's really important to understand, because this was the learning for me. This was the big learning for me, which I never even understood this, is that when you let your body rest for at least 8 to 12 hours, you're already getting benefits from the fat burning.
That's me.
Yeah,
I do. We have dinner at 7 or 7:30, and then after that we don't eat.
Good for you. And then when would you eat in the morning? Just curiously, when would you eat?
Anywhere from 7:30 to 8:30.
Right. So there you go. There's 12 hours. So then depending on what your goals were, like just as an example, just depending on what your goals were, that's when we would start talking about, we're going to get into that in a moment when we start talking about fasting, but that's depending on what your goals are, that we start working out how do we stretch that window without feeling deprivation or starvation or white knuckling it, right? Because I think the word fasting has its own,
Yeah.
again,
well, right. Everyone's talking about intermittent fasting right now and doing
About
that
what?
sort of thing.
Sorry, Justin, about what kind of fasting?
Intermittent fasting.
Oh,
Right? It's something that's come up. You see it everywhere. People talk about it, and it's a thing. And I've done it back in the day. We've done it a few times in our family, my wife and I. And it's something that people talk about. So you're actually sort of promoting this kind of lifestyle, is just pushing a fasting window or squeezing the feeding window a little tighter.
Right. It's however so it's either your eating window or your fasting window, whichever one you want to talk about it. And I, it's burning off the fat. It's also repairing cellular repair, depending on the length of fast. There's also cellular repair going on. I mean, if you think about it, if you're stuck in the fat burning and you're having all this glucose, one physician said the first 3 letters of glucose is glue, and it sticks. And if you think about sugar in your teeth, it's cavities. If you have sugar in your heart, it's heart disease. Sugar in the brain, this is what they're calling type 3 diabetes now, is Alzheimer's. So I really believe if we want to stay healthy, and my dream would be to help Burlington become the healthiest city in the world, you know, is understanding this balance. It's not about starvation, but understanding about the balance and allowing your body to have some rest.
So let's head that direction now, because I've heard this said before. A lot of people, when they hear fasting, they think, starving themselves and restricting and all these things. And it sounds very extreme. So
Yeah.
reframe that so that we feel a little more comfortable with it.
Sure. So I would say that you were already, like, you would have to look at your lifestyle. So let's just say, I know, Karen, you said it was 12 and a half hours. I don't know for if Jason, for you, if it's
Funnily enough, for me,
less
I
than
have to
you.
force myself to fast because I have to take a pill in the morning that I have to wait. I have an iron supplement, and I can't, you're not supposed to eat with an iron supplement. And then you also have to sort of let it have some time to digest before you have things like calcium and various other different things. Otherwise, it will ruin the absorption of the iron.
Right.
So I actually in the morning won't eat really until like around 9 or 10 a.m. after having had dinner the night before. There's nothing to say that I haven't snacked at some point in the evening.
Well,
I was
Put that
gonna
out
say,
there.
now,
and I'm glad you brought that up. I'm
Justin,
glad.
come to terms with the truth and what.
I'm being honest. I'm being honest. So
No, but here's the thing. All right. So snacking is okay if you understand what kind of snacks to have.
right.
There are allowable foods, and I have to tell you, this is not for the purists who are listening to this. If someone wants to be purely fasting, then you're not supposed to eat or even drink other than water. In my world, the way I work with the people I work with is, you know, if you're trying to stretch that fasting time, right? So you have a standard time. I don't know if it's 12 hours, 13 hours at this point in time in your life, but you say, you know what? I want to stretch to 17 because I believe so. In my world, intermittent fasting is 12 to 15 hours. Lots of good things happening here, lowering inflammation, it's triggering growth hormone, it activates obviously the fat burning. But you can go to a 17-hour fast, which now you're doing cellular repair. So if you have issues in your body, these are the things to think about. It also protects your brain because it cleans out those zombie cells that are hanging around. So 17 hours is what's called autophagy. It's actually named by a Nobel Prize winning scientist in 2016, Yoshinori Osumi. And so it was scientifically proven that, wow, 17 hours is a nice goal to be able to help improve
Oh, okay.
cellular repair in your body. So what I'm trying to say here is, regardless of the length of fast, even if someone's listening and they say, oh my goodness, I finished eating at 9 and I at 9 o'clock at night and I eat again at 6 in the morning. So then trying to go to 7 in the morning is the goal, or trying to go to 6:30 in the morning. It's just the stretch. Any change is good for the body. Nothing is too small.
Right.
But the point here is, if you're trying to stretch and you're finding, ooh, I'm getting that hunger pang, in my world, we call that the gap. So that's, when you're lifting weights for the first time and you have to really do that push to get that last rep in, or this is the same. This is the same when you're trying to fast, and you are allowed certain foods. I can happily share, I have a guide that I can attach to the notes here, to the comments after if you want. It's just under a certain amount of protein and fat, no carbohydrates, so no fruit, vegetables, or even anything else. But protein and fat under a certain amount. So if you wanted to have a hard-boiled egg, this is what I wanted to say, that if you got hungry and you were pushing yourself, hard-boiled egg won't take you out of your fasted state.
Interesting, because this is where I end up sometimes in the morning, because there are nights when I eat earlier or whatever, and I don't snack, quite frankly. Like I don't do that every night, but some nights,
Right.
and so get up in the morning, around 7, have my pills and things around that time. Got to wait at least an hour, and it's usually not till 9 o'clock because the kids, between taking the kids to school and all the things, in that window of like 8 to 9 o'clock, sometimes I get what you've noted here on some of my notes here is sort of that irritable dizziness, or like that kind of
Right.
almost like hunger pangs in my stomach, where I'm like, ugh, and I'm feeling like a little bit nauseous or whatever. And I've often thought, okay, I'm going to go have something, got to go put something in my belly just to get rid of that. Cause I wonder if it's the pills or You know what I mean? Because I mean, I've been
It
doing
could
these
have even
pills
been
for
what
a
you ate
while.
the night before. It could have might have been what you have to think about what you ate the night before, because
Got
our
it.
bodies aren't finite by day. It's
Got it.
kind of like a rolling. So what
Right.
you eat the night before affects your body the next day and continues on that way.
Got it. Okay. So
So
no McDonald's at midnight is what you're saying.
yeah. Listen, it's changing habits is challenging.
That's
I
fair.
don't
That's
think
fair.
that's your habit. I'm just
No, no,
saying
it's
that
not.
I have some clients that, eat 11 o'clock at night and don't go to bed till 1 or 2 in the morning. And then, we have to adjust their window
Right.
accordingly. And what I would just say is that if you need something to eat, I'm happy to share. I have a couple of easy peasy guides. They're really just like pictures that help people understand that if they wanted to eat something, like if you took out a hard-boiled egg and ate it, you'd be fine.
That's
But
a great idea. That's what I'm going to do, to be honest.
And
Yeah.
sometimes,
I heard,
sorry.
sorry, and I actually have a little bit of goat yogurt at night.
Yes,
If I really feel a
yes.
gnawing of, you know, something that I want to put in my mouth.
Yes. Yes, and that is fine, like a tablespoon, or like not to have a whole bowl, but to have like a tablespoon if you wanted to
Yeah,
keep in a fasted state. All right, that's
yeah,
different if you
yeah.
don't. But I sometimes just stick my spoon into my almond butter,
I
and
was going to say, where does Nutella fall into this gap? No, I'm just kidding.
yeah. Nutella's in your eating window after you eat.
Totally kidding.
So what I would say is if you're gonna have some sugar or
Mhm.
carbs, have it after you have your
After,
protein,
yeah.
your fats, your
Yeah.
vegetable. And so all we're trying to do here is tamp down the blood sugar spike. That's really what we're doing. But I wanted to also say that sometimes thirst masks itself as hunger. So
Mm.
sometimes I'd say, try to drink something if you're starting to feel hungry. I love Celtic salt. And you can sometimes but you can have Himalayan or sea salt, just not your regular table salt. You
Yeah.
can take a pinch, put it under your tongue, take some water. You'd be amazed how that helps the hunger.
Wow.
And another point, sorry, I get too excited, but one other
That's
point.
okay. Keep going. We're a sponge right now. We're loving this.
Yeah. So hunger is a wave. So I want people to take home that it's not like hunger increases with every passing hour, and you're gonna, your brain's gonna
Yes.
pop off your
Yes.
head.
Yeah.
It's a wave. So you
Yeah.
just have to ride that wave if you're really, again, just trying to get through to, to another point of time for fasting.
If I've learned anything about the human body from things like Survivor and other shows that I've watched in the past, and also talking about what you just mentioned, the idea of, you know, millennia of evolution and our bodies are still essentially the same, you know, you get through that hunger. Like there's been days when you're working and you can't eat and you're starving all of a sudden. And then like an hour later, you're like, I thought I was hungry an hour ago, and your body's not
Yeah.
hungry
Yeah.
anymore.
Exactly.
So, it works.
So-
You've noted here this something called the foundational 5.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm actually only going to talk about 4 of them today because one will require a whole other
That's fair.
conversation.
That's fair.
So now we're moving into the food. So we've talked about some foundational, we talked a little bit about fasting, and now we're moving into kind of how do you, focus on the right foods. And so these are the foundational 4, if you will, that we talk about in the Fast Like a Girl program, which number 1 is don't count calories, whatever you do. Your blood sugar stability matters. So this is what we're talking about. It's about doing whatever we can to not have those spikes throughout the day, because that's the crashes and the cravings and the fog, the brain fog, etc. So make sure you're doing what you can for blood sugar. So like we were just talking, if you're going to have a cookie or something, you want to have it because you just want to have it that night. Eat your protein, your fat, your vegetables, then have the cookie so it's not on its own, and so you're not spiking your blood sugar nearly as high. The second one is nature's carbs over man-made carbs. This is a big one. Eat the colors of the rainbow, people. Eat as much as you can in nature's carbs. That's vegetables and fruits. And man-made carbs, all I would say is please read ingredients. Whatever you do, read ingredients. Don't just read the nutritional facts, read the ingredients. And I have, my 3 rules are more than 10 ingredients, put it back, can't pronounce something, don't know what it is, put it back. And if it has kind of natural flavor or artificial flavor added in there, put it back. So those are the, there are substitutes. Like I have one of my examples I always say for white rice is you can use cauliflower rice. Like you can, blend cauliflower, make it as rice. You can use sweet potato. But if you need to, it's not easy to do that. Sometimes we have so much stock at home that we want to use it. I would just say that just make sure you're reading ingredients and then use it. Make sure that your carbs are dressed, that you're not eating them on their own.
At the end of the day, I look back to my grandparents who came from Europe, and lived on essentially farms and farmed their own vegetables and, killed rabbits and other animals to bring home to eat. And that was very whole food stuff. There wasn't a lot of, added preservative. There wasn't any added preservatives.
No.
And then that carried on. I mean, if you went into my grandmother's pantry right now today, okay, she's got some things in there that you probably wouldn't like, but for the most part, her daily diet is stuff that she makes herself on her own, not stuff out of a package or out of a can or anything, stuff that she puts together on her own, even at 90 years old. She's still doing that and going
Good
strong.
for her. And that's why she's 90 years old.
Well, that's it. And it's just ingrained in
right?
her from a lifetime of eating that way, right?
And no dementia, no Alzheimer's.
No, smart as a
Yeah,
whip.
I mean,
sharp as a tack.
and I think it's proof of what's going out there in society,
Absolutely. This warms my
And
heart.
I just there were a few times in my life that I had that big freezer in the back. It was full, and I remember that, and I couldn't believe how bad I felt in regard to weight and mentality and everything, and even looks, So it's interesting how, and Justin knows that I ran, I rode, I did, and I got rid of it all, and but it's, oh my gosh.
We're not even talking about exercise here, but that's an element too. Your question. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what I would say is, listen, I love to hear your grandmother's story, because we didn't talk about it, but there's a Canadian statistic that says the average Canadian lives to 82. So your grandmother's rocking it. And the health gap is, we're only healthy till 70 of those 82 years.
Right.
That's on average. So that means that's what we call that difference, the health gap. And all of this that we're talking about is about extending that health span to be your lifespan.
So you're spending that 12 years in just utter horror, basically.
Right.
It's like going through health problem after health problem.
And being dependent on others, and and it just, so what we want to do, the whole purpose of this is to shrink that ultimately in our lifetimes.
So let's also reframe that a little bit, because we've had some conversations about this in our family recently, Karen. The one of the biggest things I think older folks think about, and I would say my parent, like Karen's age and above, is they don't want to be a burden on their family in the older years. And so one of the ways to prevent that is to go through this protocol to help yourself become more healthy as you get older. Exactly. That's very interesting. I've never thought of it that way. Thank you for reframing.
Absolutely. And I would say it's never too late. It's never too late.
So my partner, who is turning 80 next month.
I think the wind could blow him away, though. I don't think he's a fair assessment of what.
Well, I just want to tell you, first of all, he had to go and see a doctor to renew his driver's license, and he hasn't seen a doctor in 35 years. And he reads every label that I pick up, and he says, well, sugar blues here, sugar blues. And, he's very, very insistent.
So he keeps you in line is what you're saying.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So we're talking about the foundational 5. The next one was microbiomes. We're going to kind of leave that one alone for now, because there's a lot to get into, but you have noted number 4 being protein is the hero.
Yeah, and protein is the hero.
I hear that a lot, because I actually go to the gym a lot. I have a lot of, my muscle to fat ratio is significantly one-sided in the muscle range, because I've been working out a lot. And so talk to me about that, because I know even for me, who's in the gym, 2, 3, 4 times a week, I don't eat enough protein, I'm sure. So tell me about this.
So what you should be like, I mean, the industry says, I mean, again, I tailor it to person, but they say 1 gram of protein for every gram of ideal weight.
Mhm.
So we have to translate your pounds into grams, but roughly that turns into 1 gram per pound. So
does
ideal
that
weight.
play when you're overweight? Like, or like, how do you,
No, it's
like,
ideal weight.
oh, for your ideal weight. Okay,
Ideal
cool.
weight. So what we're saying there is, so listen, if you can get 30 grams on average, if you can get 30 grams of protein per meal, you're rocking it. It's not so simple all the time, especially as I work with clients who are shrinking their eating window. So if you can get 40 to 50 to 60 grams in a day, you're doing great. And you just have to find the healthy options to do that. And there's a lot of grams of in legumes, like in all of nature's
Yeah.
in nature's carbs. There's a lot there. And of course, I mean, I'm a meat eater, so so I would have it definitely from meat, from eggs. You can have it from yogurt, the list goes on. And really this helps preserve your muscle. I mean, especially for women, but men too. As women, as we age, we have to preserve our muscle mass.
Yeah.
And we do that with protein.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is I don't have a gallbladder, so red meat and stuff, I can eat it, but not at great high levels because
Fair
fats are not really good for me.
Fair enough.
So my question becomes, eating chicken becomes tedious sometimes. I love beef. Don't get me wrong. Like, that's my number one go-to.
I
Like,
hear you.
but it's also in a lot of ways prohibitively expensive right now. Beef is extremely
Yes.
expensive right now. So talk to me about protein powders and things like that. Are we good to supplement with protein powders?
Well,
or
I
how do you
think
feel
protein
about that?
powders are good. You have to really read the ingredients. I'm just going to tell you, as long as you're, because you have to make sure there's not too much sugar.
Well,
I have just an
it's those
example with one of my
protein
clients.
bars,
I'm
right?
sorry?
The protein bars are just, I mean, you read the ingredients on those and you go, wait a minute.
I'll
You're
tell you
better
what
off
kills
making
me
your
is the
own.
sugar alcohols kill me.
You're better off making your own protein bars. Like, just take nuts and seeds and put a little honey, pat it
Yeah.
down, make your own health bar.
My wife had a great recipe for chocolate protein balls, essentially. And
excellent.
you throw them in the freezer,
Yeah.
and they're really nice.
Yeah.
They're delicious, actually, with the right protein powder as well.
Right. And so I would just say, check the ingredients on the protein powders, because there are some good ones out there. I just don't, off the top of my head, I can't think of any brand, but I would just say, please, check the ingredients, because just as an example, a client of mine went to Booster Juice. It was supposed to be like a protein, generated. And we test blood sugar in my program. We make sure, and her blood sugar like spiked through the roof, and is probably the protein that they use.
Yeah.
So whey protein is something to really watch for. Just
Yeah.
watch the ingredients in whey protein. But
Yeah.
you do need a good protein to get up those numbers for protein. There's no question. I'd also look at fish. I don't know if you eat fish, Justin, but I would look at fish, different types of fish, even shrimp, like all the, if you eat.
I do love shrimp. I can eat shrimp.
Yeah, like shrimp is really good for you. It's the sauces that are killing it, but
that's right.
Shrimp,
yeah.
It's just depends how you season it, but the shrimp those are very good for you too.
Yeah.
All right. And the last item is, you've noted here, and I'm reading off some notes you provided just to make sure we get so you've got fat doesn't make you fat, which, I think I've absorbed that information a long time ago and I get it. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that are still like, oh, you got the low fat dressing and low fat this. It's all got to be low fat,
Yeah.
Talk to me. Like, it sounds like insulin and sugar is what's making you fat, really.
Yes, insulin itself is really the insulin carrier that's making you fat. When you're eating good dietary fats, olive oil, avocado oil, ghee, butter, and none of the refined oils, which you see in vegetable, canola. Like, if you're putting if you pick up a salad dressing off the shelf, please read the ingredients. 90% of the time, the first ingredient is one of these vegetable oils. And if it's the first ingredient, that means that's the most inside the heaviest ingredient in there. So I would just say that, so things like avocados don't make you fat, olives, even if you're eating olives. By the way, these are other things you can eat when you're in a fasted state, if you like olives. It's just these are,
Olives.
yeah. And I'm telling you, I'll take like a tiny little cup of, 6 to 8 olives, and I'll just munch on them sometimes it's also salty. The brine, by the way, what we haven't talked about in all of this, I'm going to talk about it, I think, in my 5 steps that people could take home, is electrolytes. And if you like olive brine, you can put a smidge in your water, and now you have an electrolyte.
That would be same with pickle juice, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Same with pickle juice.
Assuming there's not a lot of sugar in that pickle juice or those brines, right? Because
Right.
they do put
Again,
sugars in those things too.
read the ingredients, make sure there's no sugar. But if it's just, oils and salt and olives, you're good to go.
Okay, so let's give our viewers some tangible things. You've got a couple of tips just to get moving in the right direction. Let's start there.
So the 5 things you don't do all 5. Pick one that resonates, or do more than one. But the first thing is to stop snacking. So if you eat 3 square meals, if you eat 3 square meals a day and you insert, snacks in between, first thing is cut them back. Like if you're having 3 snacks a day, go down to 2, then go down to 1. And I would say try each one for a week or 2 weeks. Don't just do it one day after another, because it's too fast. Your body needs time. So I would say a week at a time, try these changes. If you can eliminate snacking, great. And like we talked about already, some substitutes that you can take for a snack that doesn't spike your blood sugar and doesn't take you out of a fasted state if you're in the fasting window. Cut out sweet drinks. I know that there's some hot and cold. These are the best things. I don't know do we call them soft drinks, pop? I don't know what we call it. Diet or otherwise. Like one of the things I would say, please, low-hanging fruit, reduce the number that you have in a day over a week, and then just keep reducing till they're eliminated. They're really real offenders for our body. And if you need sweetness in your hot drinks, this is what my husband did in the beginning. He would take honey or maple syrup, like not the refined sugar, right? And then
you got plenty of maple syrup there, Karen. You're good.
Maple syrup is wonderful, and of course in moderation, as everything is. But I love maple syrup. Like I could put maple syrup. I'm from Montreal originally.
Karen's in Quebec right now, so she lives near a maple syrup farm. So
yeah, I can put maple syrup on everything. Hydrate well, especially with electrolytes. Water alone is good, but not the whole answer. So make sure you're using good electrolytes. I do a natural, Celtic salt with some coconut oil, organic coconut water, a little lemon juice, and that's an electrolyte, or brine from a pickle juice, or from, just make sure you're getting you need those trace minerals. You need magnesium, potassium, sodium, we need those. And then build your plate around color. Pick different vegetables, different colors, try them different days, just so that during the week, the ideal would be having 30 different vegetables in a week. In 7 days, have different, that's the ideal target. And then upgrade your fats, which is, stay away from the seed oils and stick to the good fats.
So that book that you were referred to, is that the fast, what was it? The book that you mentioned earlier?
I mentioned Fast Like a Girl.
Fast Like a Girl, yeah.
Yes. So I actually have them here. So I have Fast Like a Girl is the original book for women who are like me, postmenopausal. I don't know if you can see this. Anyway, Age Like a Girl. This is her most
Age Like a Girl too. Okay.
Age Like a Girl. Fast Like a Girl is for anyone who's perimenopausal, cycling, even if you're postmenopausal, but this gives you all the background to everything I've talked about here today. Okay. And this Age Like a Girl is trying to tell those of us who are postmenopausal, menopause is an event like teenage, turning into it, in the teenage days, the the adolescent days. So this is a big change. And so it's talking about all the hormones and things that are affected.
Yeah. Super. Thank you very, very much. You've been very informative.
I have been noticing my hunger cues right now, so I need to go eat something.
I ate just before I got here. I ate just before I got here because I know my energy is really high. So
Justin, it comes in waves, okay? So it'll eventually go away.
She notes in her notes here, she says, sit with your hunger cues for a few extra minutes before reaching. I've been sitting here for 30 minutes.
He's a bad candidate.
Yeah,
to be honest, I was going to eat before, and now I've decided to eat after, which is part of your program.
Right.
There you go.
You're pushing it. You're pushing it. Good for you.
So there you go. And the last piece I just want to mention here is that this isn't always about weight loss. It's not weight loss per se, it's fat loss
It is.
and
It is.
lifestyle as a whole, right?
And
Like, because I
lifestyle.
think a lot of people get caught up in these fad diets,
Yes.
thinking that they have to lose weight, and the number on the scale isn't always the real
No,
story.
you're
Because for
absolutely
someone
right.
like me, who's 220 pounds or 230 pounds almost, and who has a lot of muscle, I'm not gonna, for someone my height, two people could be completely different weights.
Yes, and every body is different, as you said earlier.
Everybody.
And
Right.
everybody is different in the circumstances. And you know, my mantra is aging is inevitable, but
It is,
decline
yeah.
is not.
Yeah.
There you
And
go.
you know, lifestyle. And if you can make small changes, your body will respond, really and truly.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so
Beautiful.
much, Eileen. This
Thank
has been
you.
awesome. Actually, really informative. Lots of information. What we're going to do for you, because I know you probably want to have an opportunity to continue conversations with some of our viewers. We're going to put some information below in the chat so that people can reach out to you directly and have this conversation if they feel that they want to, continue along the road and the path of creating a healthier life. We do have a lot of listeners that are, I'm actually 45 and above. So, I mean, we have a lot of listeners in this range, and it's perfect timing. So, especially as we come to the spring and kind of we're wondering and thinking about our summer bodies,
Yes.
reach out to Eileen and see what we can do to get you healthy. And let's get Burlington healthy again.
Yes, I would love that. That's the dream.
Very good, everyone. Thanks so much. We will
Thank
see
you.
you next week. It's been great. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.